Welcome to TradeTheMBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 2nd of February. Well, it was beautiful. We came right to that ABM green and filled the secondary positive extreme, and only we experienced greater weakness, but we weren't seeing a whole lot of short of activity. It was a clean DOC spread, but already at an extreme point right there. So this doesn't surprise me at all. Like we said, being moving above any of the ABM yellow levels, it's just a matter of going long at that stage. I mean, we went above the magenta, clean buy from there, and then breached the ABM yellow, and actually went to break up there so close to that 5K number. That's going to be a little bit of resistance. We're almost there at this particular stage, and ratings are still good for that. Everyone's anticipating a weak jobs number, which I don't know why, other than I guess you could front load a weak number now so that you have more room to fudge later on as the election draws closer. But um, the numbers have been ridiculous for so long. I don't know how they ever recalibrated to where it actually reflects what's going on. Maybe if you have a significant recession, you can then just flood it with all the negativity all at once since you've already got bad news. From an NQ standpoint, likewise, doing the exact same thing, gapping back up to the highs in the pre-market at this particular stage. And back to the crossover above 33 again. And again, we never saw any real short activity breaking above that 10 level that usually leads to some type of continuation. And we were also had mentioned that we were on that rising gold. So you get these peaks with the rising gold, and then you come down, you have a little bit of a pause, and then it starts back up again. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. So no shocks with any of that. And the reality is, this tells you why everything, the market, you have to put the money there. Yields keep continuing to decline. The market is still expecting major rate cuts and way outside of where things currently are, and despite what the Fed said. So their belief is that the Fed won't have a choice at some point here in the near future, particularly by the second quarter. So it's an interesting one. The bond market has been wrong for the last year plus, which is unusual because usually their track record is quite excellent. The saving grace right here, oil dipping. And as long as they can keep this under control and get it down towards that 70 mark in this range that it had been in for, well, since the beginning of December, and actually it started ebbing that way towards November, um, it's all healthy. It's not great, but it allows for the absorption, and you don't have that volatility of prices rising at uncontrollable acceleration. Um, Good news for the euro. No particular reason why, other than there's just all sorts of protests going on here. You just had the bullets being fired at farmers at the EU Parliament who are protesting in every country in Europe at this particular stage. These global initiatives to rein in emissions by stopping farmers from farming, which is a real good idea when you want to feed people just to prevent them from growing food. But that's exactly what's happening, and there's farmers revolting in every country in the EU at this particular stage with massive protests because some of the rules and restrictions are just insane. It makes no sense whatsoever, other than you want to depopulate. I don't know. Go figure. From a gold standpoint, yeah, it's going to be back and forth, and we've got a high move on the short, but we're still above with magenta, so maybe it just slows down a little bit. May have some trouble breaking the 50% under this configuration, but you're going to continue to see the slight, particularly if the idea of easing, and as soon as easing, is confirmed or likely, the gold market will certainly respond, catch up to where the bond market is already pre-suggesting. It hasn't quite happened yet. Bitcoin in that, after its decline, everyone was wondering what was going on here. Most of this was the liquidations of FTX holdings to pay back its losers, I guess you would call them, or victims of the fraud. So they've been selling their Bitcoin holdings to add to the coffers of what their settlement capability will be for people who still haven't got their money or the coins after all these years, and they're not going to. They're just going to get some pennies on the dollar relative to Um, and this will continue to be a warning within some of these, unregulated spaces, and even in regulated spaces, you can see fraud. It can happen anywhere. This just happened to be such a grand scale. ETH muted, and again with MBI white leading like that, even though you have magenta over again, it's going to make it difficult to push through that resistance at the 50% level right there. And beautiful sight from the 50K. So capture the decline. Once we broke above the 23%, went green. And that was beautiful transition. We had started off pre-market in that with these readings of strong MBI white. We ended up suffering with a little bit lower, but that shorts just basically covered completely under that little dip below the 23%. No new ad going on, which is a great indication when you see that kind of taking place, that dip sort of over and turn around a magenta right there, and that was right before the 23. And then as soon as it popped above the 23, it was easy to go long on that setup, and it never looked back. So pretty clean. Post market actually doing quite well because we had this big run right at the end of the day, so we're kind of flat vis-a-vis the trade for the day, but right after the market closed, massive buy programs kicked in. Pretty much why we see on the daily chart virtually no short activity taking place. They captured them on the little dip, and that was enough to trap them and flip it around, and that's exactly how the markets work. So it was beautiful. You can see early morning, there was the brief dip, and then the excitement built, and it was off to the races from there. So it was a fairly clean situation. That's the long and the short of it, and certainly we'll continue to follow the geopolitical situations as well as economic, and keep you updated on the Skype chat. Have a good one. Trade well.